Welcome back. We're working through his list. Dr. Levant and Goldstein is telling us his top 10 ways to fix the environment. You notice none of them involve carbon trading, carbon taxes, or other UN-directed schemes. Doctor, let's jump right in with number 5 in your list. Let's look at it now.
Well, number 5 is the one that speaks directly to this, and that is pull out of Kyoto.
Now, isn't it true that the Kyoto Accord is going to expire in just over a year anyway? So
Yeah,
the whole world's pulling
and
out.
it takes a year to get out of it anyway. So Canada is saying, well, so is the rest of the world. Absolute nonsense. But also, don't like pull out of Kyoto. Don't vote for politicians who advocate for corrupt cap and trade markets. That's what they are. They're corrupt. There's bad subprime mortgages. They're worse than subprime mortgages. Massive fraud going on in Europe. Just get out of it. And don't vote for politicians who want to abandon fossil fuels in time frames that are going to kill millions of people, are going to consign millions of people in the developing world to death, millions of people in the developed world to fuel poverty, as we've seen in the UK. They're paying exorbitant amounts for electricity, and which will undermine energy supplies, increase human suffering, and reduce economic growth. That we will not solve this problem by imposed scarcity. It won't work.
Germany says it's going to shut down its nuclear program, which is one of the largest nuclear programs in the world. Is it BS, or do you think that's? Do you think they're serious about that? I can't believe they're serious about it.
Well, that's insane, and that really is my number 4.
Okay, number 4. Let's look at it right now.
Which is to the way I put it is end the environmental jihad against nuclear power. Nuclear power is the one form of energy we have that we can grow that doesn't emit greenhouse gases and air pollution. Now, environmentalists say, well, but when you mine for it, blah, 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 blah. Stop the nonsense. The fact is that there are many, many prominent environmentalists. James Lovelock, inventor of the Gaia theory. Patrick Moore, the co-founder of Greenpeace. Even James Hansen, the NASA scientist who is the global warming guru. All of them believe, George Monbiot, the most prominent environmental journalist in the world, all agree nuclear power has to be part of the solution. But we're stuck with these idiot Greens who are baby boomers who think there's going to be a nuclear war. It's insane.
The thing is that whole Fukushima, you had an earthquake and a tidal wave. How many people died? Zero.
And
zero. And you know what? Every year in coal mine fires, we accept hundreds of deaths of coal miners to get coal. I'm not anti-coal. I'm just saying, hey, compared to other sources of energy, it's safe.
Except all forms of energy involve risk to humanity. There's no doubt about it. But you cannot just look at nuclear in isolation. What about dams? Dams in the developing world, they've killed millions of people.
Yeah.
So you really have to be... But the big thing is, nuclear power is the one we can use to grow quickly. So if this is an existential threat to the world, right?
Climate change.
Right. If existential is, if...
I'm a skeptic, but that's granted.
If you believe in that, if it's an emergency,
Yeah.
then you have to deal with this issue. And the environmentalists have to stop playing the game of, oh, well, you can't have nuclear power, so, but then, they go, we need nuclear power. Oh, but you can't take the waste anywhere, you can't move it, you can't... Come on, stop being hypocrites. And really, people who really think about these issues in the environmental movement know nuclear power has to be part of
Let's go on to number 3 on your list. Pull it up on the screen, if you please.
This one isn't directly related to climate change, but it's important because coal-fired energy is problematic in terms of air pollution. And the problem we have, example, in Ontario has refused to put scrubbers on its coal-fired energy plants for years. Why? Their argument is because we're getting rid of them and we're replacing them with wind turbines. The original promise was years ago by the Ontario government. But every year, now they're using less of it now, but every year they allow this pollution to go on that we could fix right now. But they don't do it because of this bizarre argument that, well, it won't fix the carbon dioxide problem. So let's ignore particulate matter, sulfur, mercury, all that stuff. It shows you how this can be harmful to human beings.
You know what? I'm not for taking Canadian money to give to one of the biggest economies in the world, namely China.
No.
But if we were into some sort of foreign aid environmental thing, it would make more sense to put scrubbers on Chinese coal-fired power plants than to build them windmills, which are just for show.
Particularly when what the coal-fired plants do in China is they get villages off wood, which is actually an environmental good, because wood burning in huts, houses, kills people in China and Africa. A coal-fired plant in those contexts improves the environment.
And that's the thing. We're here in our luxury in the West. We've gone through the Industrial Revolution 250 years now. In China, they're just moving up from
They want
wood
to do
to
what we
coal.
did. They're not evil
Yeah.
people. They want to do what we
In
did.
fact, it's the best news humanity can have, to lift 100 million, 200, 300, 400 million people out of abject
Exactly.
poverty using energy instead of human power and animal power. The development of China is a good news story. And also, I think in North America, we have to realize that a lot of that pollution is our outsourced pollution, because all our stuff in Walmart and Toys R Us is from China. Let's go to number 2 right now, because we've only got a couple minutes left. What's number 2 on your list, Doctor?
Well, it's basically, rather than screwing around right now with solar panels and wind turbines, no. Move fossil fuel energy production, the stuff we can do, from the worst polluting to the least polluting. And that means you move from coal to oil to natural gas wherever possible.
So what about fracking? Fracking is getting us a ton of natural gas and oil. I'm pro-fracking. I think it's got a bad name, and people say, oh, fracking, I'm scared of it. What's your view on it?
If it's replacing coal, all the more reason to do it. Then you go from these, and then the final stage is to go from natural gas to nuclear. But basically, use the technologies we have. We know that natural gas has half the carbon footprint of coal. Instead of screwing around with wind turbines that have to be, they only work part of the time, replace coal with natural gas. How hard is this?
We only have a minute left. Let's look at your number 1 solution to go green the right way. And here it is: end government subsidies on all forms of energy. Well, any freedom lover's going to love that.
Government subsidy, and this is where we get some of the money to pay for the research I was talking about earlier. Basically, all forms of subsidy, they distort the marketplace, they prevent efficiency from happening. And I'm talking about fossil fuels, alternative fuels, everything. No. Take away that money that we're paying. Fossil fuel companies are doing very fine. So are nuclear companies. And all the subsidies, let the market compete. All of these things are, there is a philosophy called, it was a 1990 book by Peter Huber. It was called Hard Green, Staving the Environment from the Environmentalist, a Conservative Manifesto. And it's all about this issue that conservatives need to take back this issue. We need to take it back from the left. We need to start talking about what we would do, not just dismiss everything as no good, but say, no, there are practical things we can do as individuals and as members of civil society that have nothing to do with command and control, phony taxes, corrupt cap and trade markets. Just common sense and hard work.
There you have it, folks. Your top 10 lists of things you can do or we can do to fix the environment without taxes and command and control. Up next, your letters.